He scraped out his own eyeballs and ate one while he was in custody, but why he was there in the first place was even worse. It was March 2004 in Sherman, Texas, when all hell broke loose. Andre Thomas was no stranger to violence. In fact, he'd grown up in a household where it was just poverty-stricken, and he'd seen his mum get abused regularly. 10 years before he was even born, his nan's husband had shot and killed his own uncle. But he seemed like a good kid, and he seemed like he wanted better for himself and his life. He went to church regularly, and everybody said what a respectful little boy he was. But when he turned 10, it felt like his personality started to change. He was telling people he could see things that weren't even there, like angels and demons. Now, nobody really knew if this was just a kid with an overactive imagination. I mean, I had invisible friends when I was little. Or whether it was a sign of something more serious. Either way, he started smoking and drinking from a young age, and when he was just 12 years old, he was getting in trouble with police. Over the years, he stole a car, got arrested, and ended up in a young offenders institute. It seemed like he was spiraling downhill. But something happened in 1999 that seemed to be kind of like a turning point, and maybe he was going to change his life. Him and his young girlfriend had a baby. Now, they were incredibly young, but Andre was adamant, like, I'm gonna be there to support my child and my girlfriend. He took on several jobs just to make ends meet, and he really did seem to be supporting this new family that he'd created. In 2001, when he was 18 and she was just 17, he married Laura Boren. And things were okay for a little while. I mean, from the outside looking in, they seemed like a really happy family, but it didn't stay that way long. Just 4 months into the marriage, they ended up breaking up. And I guess, you know, they were young. Things change very quickly at that age, especially when you have a child. But Laura seemed to move on very, very quickly, and this really devastated Andre. She ended up dating this new guy and also having a baby daughter with him. And obviously, she was well within her rights to do that, but he was heartbroken. He just didn't seem to be able to move on. He started not showing up at work, which wasn't like him, and just experiencing a real plummet in his mental health. He was having these really intense delusions, and when Laura found out about it, she was like, my son is my priority, and I want to make sure that he's safe, and I don't know if I can trust him to be around Andre. But as valid as her concerns were, this sadly only made Andre spiral even more. He started to believe in his own mind that she was Jezebel and that his son was the Antichrist. He started behaving very, very strangely, walking around with duct tape over his mouth and refusing to talk to anyone. It was clear that his mental health was spiraling and nobody was really helping him. I mean, he actually even showed up at a mental health facility and said that he wanted to walk in front of traffic, and they just fobbed him off. As if that wasn't bad enough, he ended up in A&E after stabbing himself in the chest. But instead of like sectioning him or something for his and others' safety, they actually just kind of let him wander off back into the world. Sadly, things were about to take a darker turn. 2 days later, he broke into his ex-wife's house. She was alone inside the building with her 2 young children. And honestly, what he did next is like something from a deranged horror film. He stabbed her to death first and pulled out her lung thinking it was her heart. He then absolutely horrifically stabbed the 13-month-old little baby and his 4-year-old son, Andre Jr. He then cut out both of their hearts. He then stabbed himself in the chest and lay there expecting to die, and waited and waited and waited and was really confused when he didn't die. He eventually was like, I don't know why I'm still alive, and then just stood up and walked out of the house. Then when he got home, he placed a chilling voicemail. Sherry, this is Andre. I need yours help. Something bad is happening to me, and it keeps happening, and I don't know what's going on. I need some help. I think I'm in hell. I need help. Somebody needs to come and help me. I need help bad. I'm desperate. I'm afraid to go to sleep. So when you get this message, come by the house, please. Hello? He then just showed up at the police department and randomly announced God had wanted him to kill those victims, so he'd had to do as he was told. Bear in mind he still had a gaping chest wound at this point, so they rushed him to hospital, and after he got medical attention, he was arrested. But things were about to get even more gruesome after he was arrested. He scraped out his own eyeballs with his bare hands and ate one. Now, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia and originally declared incompetent to stand trial because it's very clear to me that he was having severe mental health problems. But one psychiatrist said that he was exaggerating symptoms to appear more insane. Guys, what do you think? Because I don't think you scrape out your own eyeballs and eat one if you're just exaggerating symptoms to get a more lenient sentence. He was ultimately convicted of capital murder and given the death sentence, but it's hugely controversial, and loads of people argue that actually he should be held in a mental health facility, not given the death sentence. After a bunch of appeals and petitions, a hearing to decide his fate is actually scheduled for March 2026.